A lot of good stuff, a lot to go over. I'll open it up for questions at the end, and let's just jump right in. From touring to trust, mastering the buyer representation in the new real estate landscape. So, space. Oh, we're having a slide in. Space bar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Back
Got
one. We go back one.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So my name is Jesse Dansereau, for those of you who don't know, although I'm pretty sure I've met everybody and everybody who's out here in Zoom land. I came into real estate at a very interesting time. The settlement was on the horizon. John was teaching me forms classes, and he was letting me know the change is coming. You may as well get in front of it. Everybody's talking about it. Stuff's already happening in Washington, so use buyer broker agreements. This made me really nervous. Everybody else around was telling me that this won't happen, or this is going to be real difficult, uncomfortable conversations, but taking marching orders, I decided John told me to do this, I'm going to do it. So like any good agent, I went to cry about it to Jeff Johnson. He gave me my second good piece of advice. And he told me that buyer's broker agreements are only as good as the relationship. Any buyer that doesn't want to work with you, no buyer's broker agreement is going to hold them in place. There's nothing about that piece of paper that's protecting you. It's not a big deal. Relax. So with that mindset, I took my first floor call. We went out and toured a few multi-unit properties. Nothing much came, but the next weekend, an investor called me. Turns out those were a couple of his representatives. He had found a piece of land. He explained to me that they wanted to do multiple units over the next few years. They were looking at expanding their footprint in Southern Oregon. So, being the proactive agent I was, I wrote up the contract on a $200,000 piece of land and included a buyer's broker agreement. On this agreement, I put a 2-year term. I checked the box for commercial, for land, for residential, pretty much for everything. Not really knowing what I was doing, and sent it out, and he called me on it. He called back, he said, hey, what's this 24-month period? You put commercial, you put residential, we're just doing a land deal. And I told him, I said, well, you told me that you had a goal that you wanted to accomplish in the Rogue Valley. I'm just letting you know I'm your guy. This isn't a short-term one-time deal. You have a lot of things you want to accomplish. Sometimes multi-units over a certain number are considered commercial. Some residentials, like the duplex you already have, are residential. Whatever you need, I'm here. He kind of laughed and ended up signing it. But what I had found there was, beyond the buyer's broker agreement, I had just formed a team. And getting to that point was the early lesson that I learned from the experience. So as John predicted, the NAR settlement did eventually come. I got a little familiar with buyer's broker agreements, but they really changed the rules. And I think a lot of people didn't understand the basis of the settlement. In order to have a case, you've got to have a wronged party. In this case, the wronged party were the buyers. And they were wronged in 2 ways. The first way, they didn't know their agents worked for them. This one I was kind of disagreeing a little bit with. A couple of years prior, they had changed the rules. There were disclosures in there. Buyer's agency was being pushed. But certain comments and things were in a little bit of a gray area, and buyers weren't getting full disclosure that you work for them, not for the seller. And somewhere in the way, some confusion caused damages that the case came about. The second thing was they did not know that commissions were negotiable, or they weren't fixed, and there was some part of it that was saying there was collusion to try to push a 3%. This one had a little bit more weight, because as the way it was at the time, if a seller puts that they're offering a 2.5% buyer's commission, who's deciding who's paying? The buyer's agent. Somehow now the seller has determined the relationship between you and your buyer, put it up on the MLS, and people would tell their buyers, don't worry about my commission. The seller is offering to pay a 2.5% or whatever it is. Sometimes they would increase that rate to try to get agents to bring them more. Maybe if we put 3.5, some agents are going to start digging into their Rolodex, look at potential buyers. So the fact that this was going on was pretty clear, and that's where the biggest change took place. In my opinion, even before this settlement, and one thing that's very important to understand for everyone is that sellers don't have the money to pay anybody. So when the seller is offering things like seller credits, a home warranty, credits toward closing fees, commissions, this is not their money. If you're offering a seller a home warranty out of the money they're handing to you, who's really paying for the home warranty? Who's really paying the thousands of dollars that you're getting in credits? If you say, oh, they're going to give you a $6,000 seller's credit, you're going to be paying that $6,000 off over the next 30 years. Or in the case of a cash one, to let them know you could decrease your price $500 and just as easily, it's the same deal. All commissions, all monies, the buyer brings the big bag to the table, title divvies it out. No seller gets to say how much everyone gets paid. They have a relationship with their agent, and they're going to pay after they get the money, their agent, but they don't have it until it's coming in from the buyer. So this part of the relationship and the ways to explain it will come up later, but it's really important to know. And it feels like a lot of people don't. Next slide. So after the settlement, the new changes came into effect. In Oregon, before the settlement actually, in Oregon it decided that a written buyer's agreement is required before or as soon as possible after you start helping a buyer. It must disclose compensation with a specific amount. You can't just have it completely open-ended, and must state whether it is exclusive or non-exclusive. The final thing, the term cannot exceed 24 months, which is why I put 24 months on my buyer's broker agreement. And the exception is open house. So just to kind of throw that out there, you are allowed, obviously, to interact with buyers inside the house when you're sitting there at the front table. The Oregon solution, this is Washington's as well, was that they were going to use short-term buyer's broker agreements for a single property, for a 24-hour period, or however you want. When I talked to the lawyer about this for our realtor association, this was one of the big questions he kept coming back at me. Like, why are you so passionate about these touring agreements when you can do everything you need to do with the buyer's broker agreement? And it's true, it does do all the disclosures. It is completely compliant. But my argument to him was, how does this help you build that relationship? That feeling of team that I had got in my first buyer's broker agreement, how does doing transactional buyer's broker agreements help me build a better relationship with my buyer? And the answer is, it really doesn't. The forms board felt that the touring agreement, was going to take their agents and turn them into zero-fee door openers, is the argument I got. They sat around and talked about it. We are realtors, we are agents, we are not Zillow employees that open doors, so we don't need a touring agreement. And respectfully, I disagree with them. I think that by transactionalizing the buyer's broker agreement, they're doing a lot more damage than they are good. And I felt really passionate. So I went to John, and after many spirited conversations with John and a lot of back and forth, and with the full support of Devin, I was able to get them and persuade them to bring in a touring agreement to the Windermere offices. So I give you the touring agreement. We're going to discuss each of the parts, but I'm just going to go over the main things real quick for people in Zoom land especially that don't have the sheet in front of them. The touring agreement is going to have your buyer's name, the broker, meaning our office, location. You can put a city, Jackson County, excuse me, same as a buyer's broker agreement, wherever you're working, as broad or as narrow as that is. It has a 7-day period. It's letting people know that the sole purpose of the agreement is to consult for touring services. Connection with the touring services, the broker shall all non-waivable duties required under the state law. Buyer and broker agree they're entering into a non-exclusive relationship. There is a buyer representation. They are saying they are not working with another agent, a duration of 7 days with an automatic expiration date. Buyer shall not owe or pay broker any fees from the touring service. There are no fees involved. The broker shall not receive any additional compensation for the touring services. And then if the buyer chooses to work with the broker, this lets them know there will be a buyer's broker agreement. And it's going to say either your commission will not exceed, you are allowed to put in your own amount here, or a flat rate fee. The equal opportunity language is there just to put it into total compliance, but those are the key terms. Now, what the touring agreement actually does, it is non-exclusive. It lets the buyer know that they are still free to shop around agents. This touring agreement really comes in useful when you're meeting brand new people. So before, if you show up with your buyer's broker agreement in hand, you're explaining a 3-page document that's going to have a commission that you're going to get, even if they decide to do this first property that you win in. You're creating an expected relationship with them before you're telling them you can even show them the house. With the touring agreement, it gets you into the door, non-exclusive. It confirms they have no other agent. If you're getting a referral from somebody, if you're answering a floor call, if it's coming from any referral source or anyone who is new to you, knowing that right up front is really going to help you speed things along. I've often had it where that kind of severs the relationship, saves me a lot of time where they'll say, oh, I am going to be working with my cousin, but she wasn't available this weekend, so I just thought I'd get someone to open the door for me. Then it becomes my choice. It is a non-exclusive. If they do say clearly they are working with another agent, it is not a good idea to enter into a touring agreement just to start to get that bad kind of perception that you're going in and trying to take someone else's client by showing. So it eliminates that possibility. There are no fees for the touring service. Very clear and bold in there. It gives them the lowest possible barrier. There is no reason for them to say no to a touring agreement. Even if they take one look at you, decide they don't like you, they can still get in the door. They can still hear what you have to say without any kind of a commitment. The 7-day window is flexible. You can sign multiple touring agreements. If, let's say, you go out your first weekend, they're gone the next and they come back, and you didn't really lock in that hook, then you're able to say, let's do another 7-day touring agreement. And it allows you any kind of flexibility you need and also expires automatically. You don't have to call them and say, hey, our relationship's done, it's day 7, this is it. Makes it nice. The compensation is disclosed. Your rate is stated up front. No more, don't worry, the seller pays me, which is, again, one of my least favorite lines, is any kind of inclination that you're giving to a buyer that somehow the seller has anything to do with the money that comes to you, then you're missing the heart of the case completely. Because that is the opposite side of where we are now in this new buyer's agency landscape. And it gives you a really good bridge. It's letting them know that should you choose to work with me, then there will be a buyer's broker agreement. It will state my exact commission. It will have the terms and everything that we're going to be doing. It's going to give you the fiduciary duties, et cetera, et cetera. So they're expecting to hear about this buyer's broker agreement at a later time. But really, what it's beginning is your audition period. And this is where we'll spend the most time. Before the settlement, All you would do if somebody called you on a floor call was you were going to show up, you were going to open the door, and you were going to hope. Hope for the best, hope they liked working with you, hope that you could tell them about other places, but pretty much there was no paperwork, there was nothing. It was just a smile and dial kind of approach. The short-term buyer broker agreements, you're showing up and you're asking them to make a commitment to you before you've been in the door of the house. So you've had no chance to show them you're any good, talk about your process, see if you're a good fit. You've already put it in, but you've trivialized it by saying, hey, there's a $0 cancellation fee. This is only for a 24-hour period. So you're giving that kind of sign it, but don't worry about it vibe. Like, this is not a document that locks us in. This is an easy document for you to get out of. This is easy for us to do what you need to do. So every property you go to, why wouldn't they just say, hey, let's do another buyer's broker agreement? Hey, I've got a new place. Can you shoot me over one of those buyer broker agreements with this address? Then you've got to have a little side conversation to say, actually, I could extend this out. We could decide. So you still get there, but it's a much more awkward transition that leaves everybody kind of unsure as to what's the point of this document they're signing. With the touring agreement, when you show up, you're letting them know right there, either you can do it over the phone, we'll get to later, or having it in front of you, but you are letting them know loud and clear, I am here to earn your business. You're stating very clearly with it, I am not a representative of the seller. I have no connection to this property here. In fact, I can help you with any properties in Jackson County, Josephine County, however big you want to make it where you're willing to drive. But it lets them know that this is my audition. I'm ready to impress you. And they also know what's to expect should they choose to work with you. Once you hit that mark, they're suddenly saying, oh, I know exactly what comes next. The buyer's broker agreement, we're going to be negotiating their commission, et cetera, et cetera. It's clear, professional. It is not some little slip of paper they just sign their names, and it gives you an opportunity to go over all of your goals before entering the first house. The next slide. The differences in them and the similarities, while both of them are NAR compliant and both do disclosure compensation up front, the buyer's broker agreement doesn't have a line that confirms they're not working with any other agents. I don't know if they'll add it later. The touring agreement is nice enough to say that this is non-exclusive and ask them the question, are you working with any other agent? The pressure that buyers feel on a short-term buyer's broker agreement to sign a 3-page document before they've heard you say anything. I hear a lot of people too, and one thing I talked to the lawyer with that I'll just kind of get into briefly was this, well, I need something signed, a buyer's broker agreement signed, before I start to do realtor services. This says I can perform touring services. What's the difference between touring services and realtor or real estate services? And when I talked to the lawyer about it, the law was never to hamstring us so that we can't talk about real estate, so that we can't talk about our jobs, the market, what's going on in neighborhoods. You are allowed to use all the tools at your disposal to try to secure the business. The activities that you can't participate in are you can't start negotiating on their behalf. You can't start writing up a contract. Once you really start acting as their representative, which is still a kind of gray line, but you're allowed to pull that trigger. If they say, hey, can you reach out to the seller? I'd like to know if they'd be interested in, and if it's a common question that is just about the property, you're allowed to research properties. You're allowed to discuss pricing. You're allowed to give your opinion on the current market, just like you could to anybody in the grocery store, any of your friends anywhere else, if you're just talking about things, you don't instantly pull a buyer's broker agreement out of your back pocket and say, here, before I can tell you about real estate, sign this real quick. There's a reason we're still wearing Windermere logos and hoping somebody comes up to us and says, hey, you're an agent. If all of a sudden you have to zip your lips because you don't have a written agreement, how would any of us do our jobs? So you don't need to get nervous about, oh, you want me to make a call for you? You want me to set up another tour? All of that is well within your touring services. It's not going to get you into any trouble, and it's going to make that buyer broker relationship that much stronger. So before you open the door, when you're on the phone, and this is my kind of go-to script, you can modify it to fit you a bit, but I'll confirm the appointment. So we'll see each other, tomorrow, 10 a.m., 123 Main Street. That's great. I'll send you over a touring agreement that will get us in the door. It lets you know I'm a buyer's agent and not working for the seller. I have no connections with the property and can assist you with any properties in the Rogue Valley. Then I will send them a copy of it. And if they digitally sign it, that's great. I still like to print it out and show up with a copy of it when I meet them at the front door. Either it's, thank you for signing this touring agreement, or I have a touring agreement for you to sign to let you know that I'm a buyer's agent, not a representative of this property or the seller. Gives us a week to check out any properties you're interested in the Rogue Valley. And if you choose to work with me, my commission is negotiable and no more than 3%. Oftentimes I'll say as a Zillow agent, I'm capped at 3%. Sometimes I say as a Windermere agent, our company's policy is 3%. And it's establishing what's to come next in that buyer's broker agreement. The most common pushback I get is if, let's say, you're working with somebody who you sold their house 3 years ago and they want to start touring again. If you're starting with this touring agreement, or even if they bought a home somewhere else and it's just the first time working with a new agent, they're going to say, why do I need to sign this? We're just going in a place. Like, I just called your office. I don't even know who you are. Isn't this a Windermere listing? Like, why do I need this in place? And it's a great chance to discuss the NAR settlement and just to let them know, like, hey, prior to the NAR, or have you heard of the NAR settlement? They'll say no. You let them know it took effect in August a couple years ago. The point of it is that before, buyers weren't sure who was representing them, and they didn't know that commissions were negotiable. Often at this time, I'll jump into my big bag of money. I'm like, it's really silly because the buyers have been paying everybody the whole time. You're going to come with your money from a mortgage or cash, and we're all going to divvy it up. Prior to this, it might say the seller was offering 2.5%, makes it seem like they're paying my commission. You negotiate that with me. And they're like, okay, usually that gets it through the why. It's a disclosure. It lets you know I'm not working for the seller. I work for you. I get paid. It is not hard to say I get paid. Like, you're medium. A lot of people would really rather not talk about their commissions and hope that maybe the buyer doesn't notice that line when they're signing and closing. It is a lot better just to be right up front. What does this part mean? I have to pay you 3%? If we like this house, I've got to pay you, it said 3% on this. I let him know. No, that is my top line. It is negotiable. And then I start to do my value statements. I'm going to let them know if we're searching around for 6 months and we're looking at properties all the way from Grants Pass to, yeah, I will ask for 3%. It is a lot of driving. We're going to be doing this. Sometimes I have a land deal where the 3%, it does say on the touring agreement that even though it says there on the touring agreement, it will be no more than 3%, that too is negotiable. It makes it very clear if you read in the writing that subsequent agreements will outdo your touring agreement. I had a person who I was looking at a $250,000 piece of land with a little house on it. So 3% seemed fine. When we actually did our offer, 2.5% was fine. But we didn't get that. And then they moved on to a piece of land that was $90,000. So I let them know 2.5% is not going to work for me. It's like, what? It says on your thing. I say, okay, but let's look at what I'm going to be doing. This is going to be at least 3 months of due diligence time where I'm going to be meeting the inspectors you have. When you have your septic guy come, guess who's got to arrange it? It's going to be me. While you're out of town, who's your boots on the ground? So, and they're like, well, what do you think? I said, well, I think it would either be more around 5% or a flat 5,000. This is negotiation. This is what the settlement is about. Negotiating with my buyer, telling them my worth, why I think what I want to get paid, and they came in with we like the $5,000 flat fee, and we don't want it to be part of the sale price. These were cash buyers. Great. This is how the relationship is supposed to work. Each situation could cause, if they would have come at me and said, you know, we're looking at this $10 million house, we only want to pay you 1.5%. We picked it. We know what you're going to do. I say, great. That works. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, negotiation. The final one I get a lot, does this mean I have to work with you? Like the buyer's broker agreement, you can explain, no, this is short-term, 24 hours, just for this property. I let them know this is non-exclusive. When you do choose to work with me, if you do, when you do, I am the best. I'll say that, let them know. Then there will be a buyer's broker agreement that will be signed. But that will come when you choose to work with me. For now, this gets in the door. How about we get started? The next slide. When you, so once you start your touring phase and you are in the door, that is where your true presentation begins. You are allowed to go through the house. You are allowed to point out defects. You are allowed to make suggestions. You are truly on display. Let them know everything you're going to be doing for them. Walk them through your buyer's process as you're talking. Get your questions. Like I found out the investor guy had bigger goals than just to look at a $200,000 piece of land. So find out. I'm always asking people, is this the first place you've looked at? Have you been looking for a while? Just your normal Ford questions, LP Mama, getting to know them. And when you pick up, you need to reinforce those with value statements. Need to let them know that you're going to be holding their hand. If they've never bought a house before, let them know how the whole process works and use I statements. I will be reaching out to help us find an inspector. I'm going to be here when they go through. I help you negotiate a repair addendum. I'm going to be making sure that we don't miss anything. Whatever it is that really is starting to let them know why they want to choose you. When it's going really well, and even if it's going kind of poorly, there are only ever 3 ways that buyers sign buyer broker agreements with me. It's 3 situations every time. The first and the best is you got a 3-house tour and you're talking and you're excited, and on the second tour, the second house you go to, they're excited too, and they're like, Jesse, do you have that buyer's broker agreement you were talking about? And you're like, yes, great, because we want to work with you and we got some more questions. At that moment, the team is built. They know that they have chosen me. They know my rates are negotiable. I have not misled, or I'm not a door opener. I've auditioned, successfully nailed it, and now they're wanting to work with me. The second time is if they just get excited about a property, call back, we'd like to write an offer. Or something that's in the zone of, I feel this would be me representing you. This crosses a line for me. This is beyond touring services, or it's actual negotiation. And I let them know, hey, you remember from our touring agreement, this would be me acting as your agent. So we're going to need that buyer's broker agreement we talked about. Maybe they don't remember. It's a quick reminder about it. But again, most often it's just a quick formality at that point because they want you to write up the offer. That's why they called you. They like you. It's not a big deal. And then the third one, and this one can save you a lot of time and help you if you think you have a wishy-washy buyer, somebody you're not getting the right feeling about, is I will force the issue. With our time, our 7 days have concluded. I really enjoy working with you and would love to continue. But as we talked about when we first met, we're going to need to do this buyer's broker agreement. That's the least favorite. Then you're jumping into a new sales pitch again. It feels like often telling them why. If it's a hard no, if they're like, I really don't know if I'm wanting to use you, it's like, okay, well, we'll do one more touring agreement. Let's meet up at the house and we'll talk about it. Let's see what the hangups are. It still gives you that chance to build what you're really trying to build, which is that buyer-broker relationship. Because even when you get them all signed and you have a good buyer's broker agreement in hand, it's got your commission, doesn't matter. And this gets us back to what Jeff Johnson told me. And the answer is no. The buyer's broker agreement does not protect you. It in no way is going to stop a buyer from stop working with you. Even it isn't going to guarantee your commission because your commission is always negotiable. I've had the seller tell me on the phone, oh, we're offering the seller credit, 2.5%, great. They've got it on their sign, hanging in front of the house. Seller or buyer's commission offered, whatever the wording is on it. But then when the counter came and it was slightly below for our offer price with me written out of the deal, I can't go to my buyers and say, I don't know what you're going to do because you owe me 2.5%. And they've just written a thing that says they'll pay this without the commission. Thankfully, when that happened, since I had done my touring agreement, I had done my buyer's broker agreement, and I had given them the big bag of money speech, it's like, okay, this is a weird negotiation strategy they're using, but as we both know, you're bringing all the money. So let's look at what this offer really is. This is what they're trying to net, clearly. So if we want to counter, and if I was like, sometimes maybe because you guys are doing such a large down payment, they figured maybe you have the cash to pay me. It happens. But if you're wanting to work it into the sales price, we can cap that on top of their bottom net, and here would be our counter offer. After some conversations about, well, that seems kind of shady, it became real apparent really quick that they felt like someone was attacking their team member. The buyers, my buyers, were not happy about this. They fought for me to get my commission and negotiate it through because of the relationship they decided they had with me, not because I flashed around a piece of paper that says I'm owed 2.5%. So having the signed document does matter as far as disclosure goes, but it in no way protects you. Only your relationship with the buyer is going to get you to the finish line and a continued long-lasting relationship. Once you've reined everything in now, and you've got your buyer, you've got your buyer's broker agreement, the final and real step that's going to get you the rest of the way is to add yourself a lender. Letting them know that it's not just you on the team now. They have a full real estate functioning unit. Their lender is going to keep them updated on rate changes. If they have a call to say, how much would my monthlies be if we decided to do this? You have someone you can reach out to. They know they have a lender. They know exactly who you represent, and they know exactly how much you're going to be getting paid. Everything has been clear from before you even walked into the door the very first time with them. They've got no questions about the compensation, and they have chosen you. I wanted to talk about just a couple of other kind of horror stories in here, or different things that can happen, will happen. See if you guys have had any kind of difficult situations that felt a little uncomfortable to you or any thoughts too. I mentioned the one where I have had the buyer's broker agreement and then they came in with the zero commission. I've also had the situation where somebody came to me, walked right out of the John L. Scott building because they had gone into a house, they had been negotiating the contract, somehow they came within a couple $1,000s and it terminated. On the John L. Scott contract, their buyer's broker agreement, they had, and it's on ours as well, that there can be a fee for cancellation. Whether it's because if you're doing something that's costing you out of money expenses or whatever the reason is to have that fee there, they had a fee written for $500. They had the term set up for how long that it was good. It was the 6 months, I believe, buyer broker agreement. This other agent had driven them around, had shown them houses, and he had even been the one who toured the house. But after this big, huge blowout that they had 2 things ago, and the guy walks 2 blocks down to the Ashland office saying, hey, I just had some agent there cost me this house I love. I don't want to work with them anymore. So Catherine, who's here now, she called over to John L. Scott to say, hey, this guy, he showed us a copy of his buyer's broker agreement. It looks like he's locked in with your guy. Says here something about $500. What do you guys want to do? Can you imagine if they would have said, send him back? Like, he needs to write us a check. We've got another agent he can work with. Like, yeah, tell him that he cannot be there. It's not going to happen. There is no agent worth their salt that is going to sit there and have the review from that happen or the fallout of trying to drag a buyer through a 30-day close process when at the very beginning, they're just like, I don't like you. Like, you blew this deal. So they quickly say, no, it's fine. He owes us nothing. We are completely terminating this. It is nothing. And that same thing can happen to you. So even when you have that buyer's broker agreement signed for a 6-month period, that does not, again, protect you or your situation with your buyer. The only thing that gets there is adding that value, letting them know that it's negotiable if they do have a problem, and then trying to walk them through the process the best your ability if you do need to bail out or find someone else. But neither document, the biggest argument that I received from the lawyer is that the touring agreement turns us into door openers and the buyer's broker agreement lets everybody know we're agents. My final kind of thought on all of that is if you're using short-term limited buyer broker agreements, you are creating short-term limited relationship. With the touring agreement and a good window that gives you 7 days to demonstrate your ability, to let them know what kind of agent you are, for them to fall in love with you, it's a dating process. You'll know in the right moment to ask them to go steady with the buyer's broker or get lucky and they'll ask you. But it is a great half step to have the first conversation, which is the rough one, and they can do it in the easiest way possible. No fees, non-exclusive, say no to me, it is fine. Ask questions, it's fine. Talk about my commission. I love talking about my commission. It's like, I have many different value levels. Let's talk. But the last thing you want to do is all of a sudden have somebody surprised when you go to write a contract and this is the first they're reading about buyer's broker agreement. They don't feel that they knew you were representing them. If you're walking in a house because they called on a floor call and they think you're the listing agent, that's on you. Like this gives you a real clear opportunity to state everything right up front. And then all subsequent conversations are easier. And if it's the compensation part and you are feeling a little bit low about it, if you don't feel comfortable talking about your value, come talk to me. I will hype you up. Every single one of you is worth the value you're charging. Seeing it in yourself, knowing that it is not uncomfortable to ask what you're worth. It is not an uncomfortable conversation, and your buyers are going to be warm and receptive to it. So I hope this kind of gives you guys, especially anybody in Zoom land or here who hasn't seen a touring agreement or used one before, an opportunity when they get in front of someone new. If it's obviously some friend you've had since elementary school and you can sit down and do the buyer's broker and create a strong relationship, go for it. You do not need to use a touring agreement. But for me, for 98% of everybody I'm meeting, whether it's this is a referral from somebody I sold with through Zillow. So we had a great, that means they have a friend that is telling them I'm great. I don't walk in assuming the business with a buyer broker agreement. I let them know I'm here to audition for you. And they're great. Let's start to dance. Let's do this. So it really is a valuable tool, especially in those situations of referrals, floor calls, open houses even, because you go to show them another house. And you got to have that touring agreement when you enter in. And I believe that is my last slide. If anybody has any questions or anything. Yes.
One, that was an awesome class. I was on through Zoom all the way here at my house, but that was amazing. I've been having, I think we need this like 3 more times for everybody to hear, maybe even like on a Tuesday morning, just because I've been having that who's on first conversation with agents, with clients, with everyone, and they just don't understand because for eons we've been saying, don't worry, the seller will pay us. And it's like, and my seller will say even, I don't want to pay them. I'm like, you're not. You are actually not paying them, because if I list your house for 6 months and I cannot get a buyer to buy your home for what you want, who paid the commissions?
Right.
And he says, or she, no one. I said, you're right. No one paid. Without a buyer's pot of money, and how you Zach put it, no one gets paid. So you're right. The buyers have been paying forever. And I've always tried to teach people that, but it's tough.
But also just wanted to pin on that. That's one of my least favorite sayings is anything when I do not ask anyone on the phone, a listing agent, is your seller contributing towards buyer's commission? Because I negotiate my commission. There's a block for it on the offer. So your seller is going to read it when you present it to them. And they can decide then if it's something we need to negotiate further.
So let me ask you this though, because when we tell a buyer it's your money, but I check the box that says seller will pay to make it easier and simpler for title and escrow. Now we were talking out of both sides of our mouth. So do you not check that box?
You went on the contract.
You, yes.
Yes, no, because if it's coming out of your mortgage, and I explained to them, this is a banking thing.
Yeah.
So you're giving the money to the seller, but title is deciding. I really put it that it's the seller doesn't write a check, right? The seller gets their cut, title distributes. I started using title or escrow to say who's paying me. It will come from title based on what we put here. If I put buyer was contributing, that would be extra money on top of the sales price that you would be contributing. You are all the money. Remember it, feel it in your soul. And they'll say sometimes, oh, well, can I tell the listing agent? And I say, no, because they work for the seller. You don't know their out-of-pocket expenses. You don't know what kind of deal they made. Once they have their portion of the money, you can look the other way. But before they get their portion, title's going to cut out the portion we decide goes to me, and I'll be getting that there. So it's kind of an explanation.
That it's all, the light is all on the buyer's agent, not the listing. So the two principals, the buyer and the seller, get to know what the buyer is making, but no one gets to know what the seller is making.
Right.
And that'll be the next lawsuit.
Right.
I was just gonna say what I love about this concept. So when this lawsuit first came about, 90% of us, I will bucket myself right in there, said, crap, another step. right? Well, I gotta get this form signed. They'll sign it because they're coming for me, but I gotta get this form signed. What Jesse's doing takes it to another level of disclosure. This is the way it was supposed to be done. This was the reason that it came out. It wasn't just to make our life more difficult, like many of us thought it was. So thank you for actually investing time into learning the right way to do it and sharing it with us. And to your point, what Catherine did for you, any of your principal brokers will do. You have a client that comes to you and they're bound by a cancellation price, we will 100%, I've done it and I've not been told no. We will go to the principal broker and say, are you going to uphold this cancellation fee on this client because they've asked to work with us? And clients appreciate it. They're a little hesitant at first, like, I don't want to get thrown under the bus. Like, no, you're not gonna buy a house through them. You're not gonna feel comfortable. You're not gonna enjoy it. It's a huge investment. Let me talk to them. If they say no, so be it. Maybe we can work something out on our end, but either way, let me have a conversation. We will always make that call for you guys.
Would you negotiable buy them out of their contract?
We haven't had to, but that's why it just crossed my mind and I
I
said,
was curious.
maybe we'll look into it. Cause yeah, if it's a $500 buyout, you're gonna get a $10,000 commission and you and I might sit down and be like, hey, the company will forward it. We're gonna get these guys to sign another one with them on there. That way, if they get somebody else to buy it out, they can buy us out. Like, obviously, we wouldn't want to go that route, but I don't see why we wouldn't.
I mean, it adds huge value to the client at that point. They're like, wow, these guys really have my back. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all negotiable where you could be saying like, hey, they spent 6 months driving you around and doing these things. Like, I would feel comfortable paying them X amount of a referral fee or something. Whatever it is, it's all okay to talk about.
Yeah, great point.
It's
That's
not
what you can call the other agent and be like, they don't want to, well, I would call the other agent and be like, hey, we'll throw you guys a $500 referral when it closes. But
Yeah,
at
whatever
the end of
it
the
is.
day, yeah.
But this guy had blown it in my case. Like, he blew it. If he didn't know he blows it, he is not a very good agent. So
I think just being newer, what's uncomfortable to me when I first started this, probably not understanding everything like you explained it, is, explaining things to a buyer, but letting them know that they can get out of it and it's okay to sign. I just felt like I was laying the groundwork that all my documents didn't really matter. It's like setting this foundation and stage of like, oh, well, it's okay. And so then you get to the offer and it's a legal document. I mean, they all are, but you see what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's like uncomfortable because you're already starting out. And so then down the road, they're like, oh, well, that other form didn't really matter. So do these all matter? You know what I'm
right.
saying?
This is my 5th buyer's broker agreement I signed with you, or something like that is a terrible, terrible way to build. We're coming into a new dawn just of real estate, period. Like, one-click buttons, things like that, any way that automation can butt up against you, it's coming. What this does is give you that area where automation cannot touch you. That's your person, your personality, the human touch, the things that people like working with you. Know why people like working with you. Know what your strengths are. Let people feel that comfort of that. If they just click the button and they're buying a house with an AI agent or what the heck ever is coming, they're going to know that with you, they're going to sleep at night. Because it is a stressful purchase and a lot can go wrong. And having a good walkthrough of how you do your buyer, if you've never sat there and thought about your buyer process to be explaining in a 60-second elevator pitch, I suggest you go and work on that to be able to say, like, this is what I do for my typical buyer. This is how I'm always available. This is how you're going to get a hold of me. This is what I'm going to do after we get under contract. This is what you can expect in money out of pocket. You can walk them through the thing to where they take this big sigh of, I was just looking at my first house, to, I got my agent. I am this big step closer to buying my home because I met you. Whether or not they like the house or hate it. They might have looked around online and nobody's picture jumped out at them enough to call them. Whatever reason they got in front of you, now is the opportunity to let them know that it was their lucky mistake because they have got an excellent Windermere agent. So, any other questions? I know we're just about at the hour.
It's just like, making so you have your buyer and your seller and you make an offer and you're like, oh, we want 3%, but then your seller's like, oh, we're not willing to pay that, we're paying 2% or whatever. It's like, well, like you said, it's like, well, this person's bringing in the money. And so it's like, all right, well, maybe that offer, is reduced by that 1% on the cash price. And then it makes the sellers actually feel better because they're now getting what they wanted, which was not to pay the extra percent to the buyer's agent, but they're just receiving a regular offer that, just shows a little bit less on the actual cash side.
Right, and being able to talk about where the cash goes. Like, I can't emphasize enough to just let your buyer know, like, if you think you're getting a $10,000 seller credit and you're not paying for it, and you're like, woohoo, they just gave me money to do my car bids, to do all these things, you are paying that $10,000 off with interest over the next 30 years. It's nice if you don't have the $10,000 in your bank and you want to get these things done to live in the house, which a lot of first-time home buyers are in that situation. A little bit of extra cash, I'm happy to pay. Me and Devin did the math the other day for every 10,000, I think it's like 180, or I can't remember, but $60? Yeah, so about $62 for every $10,000 per month that it goes up or down is what it's gonna cost them on the monthly. So letting them know all about this, where they have a clear picture of the whole transaction, anything unexpected comes along, let's go back to the math. Like you said, the seller wants to net this. They're making it very clear. They're paying their agent's commission. We don't know what. There's gonna be my commission. There's gonna be these closing fees. This is all the money. And then if anything changes with the money, we wanna do 2%. We wanna take this off of your 1% and add it to the price that the seller's gonna get. So that makes them happy. Is that cool? I have done that so many times. If you've worked with JJ Kramer, he almost demands it. So it's all negotiable. The more comfortable you are, and the touring agreement just gives you a great little half step to say, these are the conversations we're gonna be having. This is what you can expect from me. And when you choose me, this is how it's gonna go down. And they get this pump moment too of, I choose you. It's like, you're my team member, and they will treat you accordingly. It's gonna give you the strongest relationships you can, which are now more important than ever. It is not a piece of paper that's gonna make you locked into a buyer. It's gonna be you and the amazing value you all bring. Any other questions, or I think that's it?
I have one, Jeffy. Can you hear me?
I'll definitely ask Jesse to please come back, maybe to teach clothes, okay?
You love me some clothes too.
Thank you.
Okay. Lots of donuts. Lots of donuts.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank
You
you,
are
Jesse.
No, yeah, take care, man. There was just a line that I was like thinking was coming next, and then wasn't there, and I was like, I don't know. Oh, and then I thought, oh, 2 springs ago I was supposed to talk about this, so I just flipped and
You
marked
did
it.
great. You did so good. So it's processing.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Really good, Jesse.
I do too. It's why I tried so hard for it. Yeah. Sally.
Hey, can I borrow you to pick your brain, because you're good at comebacks? So I did a showing in Mozilla a while ago.